How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's Monday, May 17th, and I'm going to be going over some trades that I took on Tesla. Unfortunately, today, I did not trade well at all, and I took some big losses. So now I'm going to get into the technicals of the overall market and then Tesla. So starting with SPY. SPY's had a nice two-day move off the 50 SMA. It reclaimed the 9 EMA and even got above the 20 SMA. So just keeping the levels simple like I normally do. Prior day's high, 417.49. If it gets above that, it could possibly work its way back to all-time highs. And if there's any weakness in the market, because that was a big move, prior day's low, 413.18. If it takes that out, there could be some room to the downside. Now getting into the Qs, so that prior day candle, pretty nice. The only issue is that it stopped right at the 9 EMA and the 50 SMA. So there's a couple moving averages there. If it gets above prior day's high, 327.33, it feels like there is upside room, but just knowing that those moving averages will be clear resistance. And if there's any weakness in the market, prior day's low, 322.08, feels like there's some downside room. So those are the levels that I was looking at SPY and Qs. And when it comes to SPY and Q, I really just focus on that prior day high and prior day low. I don't obsess too much about the pre-market high and pre-market low because I'm not trading them. I just want to get a gauge for who's in control. If the prior day's high gets taken out, it stays above it. It'll let me know that the market is strong. And then if prior day's low gets taken out and it stays below it, it lets me know that at that moment it's weak. So now to get into the technicals of Tesla, the daily chart has not been looking great, but it's hanging right around the 200 SMA on the daily. But the prior day candle did look all right. So the levels that I was watching, like always, prior day's high, 592.87, gets above that, does look like there's some upside room. And then also pre-market high happened to align right there with prior day high. So that's always a good sign if it gets there. And then pre-market low at 575.51, and then also prior day's low, 570.46. If it takes that out, it does look like there's some room to the downside. So those are the technicals. Now to get into the actual trade. So the first move that Tesla made off the open was up, which I like because it gapped down. And if this move fails and it takes out the low, I wanted to take this for a quick scalp. So just right now, knowing that the high of day is 579.99, clearly could not push higher. This move is failing. And if it takes out that low of day at 575.14, I think that there's going to be some sort of reaction, and I want to try to take it for a quick scalp. I think the thing that happened here is I ended up taking the trade. I got a very nice move, and I did not take those quick profits like I normally do. I tried to give it like another 30 seconds to a minute to see if the winner could be bigger, and then it eventually came back, and I ended up getting out flat. And then I think that was the start of kind of me spiraling and losing it mentally and not being as sharp as I normally am. But right here, so that move clearly failed. It's coming to low of day. I end up getting short right there, just anticipating the low of day just a little bit. Got short 5 contracts, filled at 18.95, and it starts to speed up, and now I'm clearly in the money. And as a matter of fact, these went over $1 per contract. So I was probably up close to like $600, but obviously trying to hold a winner sometimes can really come back on you. So right here is where I think I should have took that position off, and instead it ends up bouncing back a little bit. And now I'm just watching the option contracts, realizing that I got filled at 18.95. I don't want to let these go red. And then the moment that Tesla starts to find some support right around 574, and then also this next 1 minute candle opening, and then it started to go green, was kind of a sign for me to just bail just in case if this really started to go against me hard. So right there, I end up closing the position and ended up taking a very small loss. But I am happy that I got out because I missed being involved in that big move right there. So now what I'm doing is I have the high of day marked, 584.80, and then the low of day marked, 573.30. And now I don't have a bias. I'm just waiting to see if Tesla can get to any one of those levels. And if it does, then I would see that as a nice setup. And it's above VWAP. It's starting to show some strength. So now I load the 585 calls. If it breaks high of day, I think there will be some sort of reaction, and I just want to take it for a quick move. And then right here, so that's a nice big green candle. It's getting up to 584, showing a lot of momentum, a lot of buying strength. The tape started to speed up, and I get long just before the high of day break, especially being that it could not get back below VWAP. And then when it breaks high of day, there's a nice pop. It starts to speed up, and then I end up taking this one off pretty quick. And funny enough, because I did not take the quick move on the downside, I ended up making sure to take the quick move to the upside. and I did leave a lot on the table. Had I been more patient with this one and waited about 30 seconds to a minute, I would have made a lot more, but that just goes to show how complicated trading can be, and every now and then you do miss stuff. The thing that works best for me is just consistently taking profits, but I ended up taking that position off and I got a very small win. But just knowing in the back of my mind right now that I took a very small loss off the open, I did get a quick scalp long. I am small green on the day. This is where I should have just calmed down, back off, and play defense. I'm usually much better at playing defense, and I just did not do a good job of doing that today. So 2 quick trades on the day so far, and this is where I take the third. So Tesla looks like it's forming a nice flag pattern. Also thought it had an opportunity to maybe go red to green. High of day is 589.03. So if it gets there, I'm going to go long, and I end up taking 590 call contracts for the break. I got filled at 18. Did get a pretty quick move. The thing that I messed up with here is when it started to come back in, I did not cut it for flat. I did a pretty good job at cutting it for flat on the first trade. I did not do a good job of doing that on the third trade. So it starts to come in, and right here is where I should have cut it. And instead, I ended up holding it, and this became a big loser. So I ended up getting caught in this pretty nasty pullback, and how I was trying to manage it was I wanted to see what happened on the bounce. Started to bounce a little bit. Clearly got rejected right at the 9 EMA again, and then when it started to show some weakness, I ended up just bailing on the position and took a decent sized loss. So I could have cut it way sooner for a much smaller loss, but it happened really quick, and I kind of just paused for a second. I did the old let me give it one more minute, and because of that, it was much worse. And here's the third trade that I took, and the reason why I'm upset with this one is because this is not a setup that I normally take. Yes, it does look like a quick flag pattern, but it's still right in the middle of the range. It's far away from low of day, and yes, it just came off high of day, but still, those are usually not the areas where I like to take the trades. I like to take them right at high of day and right at low of day after a nice period of consolidation. So I end up getting short for the very quick flag pattern, and then this is where I just held it and I let it get a little out of control. So it looked like a good flag. I even drew the line there, kind of selling myself as to why this should probably go lower. Having a little bit too much of a bias. Yes, it just came off the highs. It is showing a lot of weakness, but still, waiting till it got to low of day is my spot, and I just over anticipated it, and then that's what started the mess of holding this and then letting this get just too big. So it did push against me a little bit to the 9 EMA, rolled back over, felt good about it again, thought, okay, here is the nice flag pattern. If it breaks the lows, this probably has a chance to take out low of day, and if that happens, then I'll have a big winner. So already mentally just toxic and not thinking the right way when it comes to trading. And then when it failed to break down again, I just continued to hold it. I was super stubborn, and then eventually when it went against me, I just finally cut it. But what I should have done is the moment that this broke that flag low right there, because that looks pretty good, and it starts to bounce, I needed to just cut it because it did not go quick. And this is where I finally just accepted the loss. So it got back above the 9 EMA. It was approaching VWAP. I did not want to be a part of any sort of VWAP squeeze because sometimes that's where it can really take off. And then as it started to speed up right there, I just bailed on the position. So overall, just not great trading. I think the first 2 trades were okay. The third trade, that high flag, not bad. What I should have done, size down a little bit because I took 2 quick trades already off the open. And that fourth trade was just not good at all. That's at a place that I normally do not take trades. I really like to wait for near low of day or near high of day. Whenever I take trades kind of in between the range, this can tend to happen. I did not cut it quick. I held it a little longer than I needed to. And because of that, the loss was much bigger than it should have been. So now to look at the portfolio, between those 4 trades, I ended up losing $1,486 on the 590 calls, $985 on the 575 puts, and only made $102 on the 585 calls to be down $2,369. It definitely sucks, but the only thing that I can do is just deal with it and then try my best to trade better moving forward. So that's it for the video. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one.